Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Hong Jie, live from Seoul. The South Korean government will officially announce the new location of the THAAD U.S. missile defense system this afternoon. Many experts say THAAD will most likely be deployed at the Lotte Sky Hill Country Club in Seongju, Gyeongsangbuk-do Province, as it's the most suitable of the three possible candidate locations. Seoul and Washington had earlier picked another site, but residents demanded it be moved to a more remote area, citing health concerns about THAAD's radar system. That is expected to be deployed by the end of next year to better protect South Korea from North Korea's missile and nuclear threats. The U.S. government and Congress are stepping up efforts to block North Korea accessing the international banking system as punishment for the regime's recent stream of nuclear and missile provocations. Representative Matt Salmon proposed a bill Thursday that would prevent North Korea utilizing direct and indirect specialized financial messaging services provided by the Belgium-based SWIFT system. It means that if the bill passes, the SWIFT system itself could be hit with U.S. sanctions if it continues to provide services to the regime. The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, or SWIFT system, is used by more than 11,000 financial institutions in more than 200 countries. A senior U.S. government official said earlier this week that Washington is already in talks with the European Union to cut Pyongyang out of the global financial system. As we enter the fifth day of parliamentary audit that's in gridlock, the floor leader of the ruling's Haenuri party has called for a meeting with his counterparts from the main and minor opposition parties to break the impasse. In a phone interview with Yonhap News agency, Chung Jin-seok said he was proposing the meeting for Friday morning as a way to end the deadlock by implementing measures that will ensure the political neutrality of the Assembly's speaker. Insisting the ruling party wants to resolve the issue, Chung stressed that the parties can learn a valuable lesson from the impasse and it should not be viewed as another example of a paralyzed parliament. Chung says the law needs to be revised to clearly govern the political neutrality of the speaker. In the United States, at least one person is dead and more than 100 injured, some of them seriously, after a commuter train crashed into a station in New Jersey, situated just across the river from New York. The White House says the investigation is ongoing, but terrorism cannot be ruled out. Park Jong-ho reports.
Witnesses say the morning rush hour train never slowed down before it smashed into a concrete barrier at the end of the track and plowed into Hoboken Station. The governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, says the engineer in the train crash was seriously hurt, but is well enough to cooperate with the investigation. Pressed on why the accident happened, Christie said it was too early to speculate. He said the only thing known for now is that the train came in at a much higher speed than normal. The White House said it's not aware of any evidence the crash was caused by terrorism, but it's not ruling out the possibility.
This is something that the National Transportation Safety Board is continuing to look at, so I think it's too soon to rule that out. But at this point, I'm not aware of any evidence that would raise those kinds of concerns at this point.
Hundreds of emergency workers spent the morning shuttling in and out of the station to help the injured. The victims were carried to ambulances on stretchers, and several passengers had to be pulled out of the wreckage. Hoboken Station, built more than a century ago, was a scene of devastation, with part of its metal roof collapsed and mangled steel and shattered glass on the ground. Park Jong-ho, ARIRANG News.
We've been taking a look at Korea-UK relations all this week as Arirang TV launched on British satellite services on Tuesday. One of the closest links between the countries is the Korean War. After the U.S., Britain sent the second largest number of allied troops to help the South during the war, but unfortunately the Korean War is not that commonly known in the UK. Our Kwon Jang-woo, who's in London, had the chance to meet with some of the British heroes that came to South Korea's aid at its time of greatest need. Take a look.
The UK provided the second largest number of troops to the United Nations forces during the Korean War, sending over 80,000 soldiers. But it was also the ally with the second highest death toll at 1,106. And yet in Britain, that conflict is often referred to as the forgotten war, coming so soon after 2 world wars.
The public had been fed up with war itself. There wasn't the television coverage or the media coverage like there is nowadays.
Sergeant Alan Guy served in the Royal Army Medical Corps, and he arrived in Korea in 1952, where he spent the next 20 months providing medical assistance to his fellow soldiers. But when he returned home, he found few who cared.
Arrived in the middle of the night. There was nobody there to greet me. I went to the local, there were no buses. I lived 5 miles from the railway station. I went to the local police station and said, "Can you help me to get home?" And they said, "No, you're a soldier, walk."
Lance Corporal Michael Griffin was a machine gunner for the Royal Norfolk Regiment, and he experienced a similar homecoming.
Nobody knew a lot about the Korean War. There was a little bit in the newspapers, but it was such a long way off.
Both were humble young soldiers, and the lack of recognition didn't concern them much at the time. But as the years went by, it became more disconcerting.
It was the memorial that really upset me, that we hadn't got our government hadn't produced a memorial. I don't think they realised that we killed more people than the whole of the Iraq, Afghanistan and Falklands War put together.
Sergeant Guy and members of the British Korean Veterans Association campaigned for the construction of a public memorial in London. But it was only with the help of the Korean government, which offered to fund the project, that it finally became a reality. This monument was erected in 2014, 61 years after the end of the Korean War. London was the last capital city to establish such a memorial among the 16 allied nations that had fought in the war under the UN flag. The monument was also a symbol of Korea's continued recognition of the service and sacrifice that British troops had made. And for Sergeant Guy and Lance Corporal Griffin, a confirmation that their efforts had not been in vain. Kwon Jang-ho, ARIRANG News, London.
And that wraps up our newscast. Thank you for joining us, and do stay tuned for more news updates at 10 a.m. Korea time. Goodbye for now.